Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 41 of Robbie's Backstage Bants. Today I'm joined by Jake Sharp. Would you like to introduce yourself and say what you do?
Yeah, man, how's it going? I'm Jake Sharp, and I play Dewey in School of Rock on the tour at the moment.
So good, so good. Even though I never got to see the end of the show. What on earth? What? That was crazy. That was...
Mate, that was rock and roll, yo. That's just what happens. That's just what happens.
It was
nuts.
Really weird, but it was fun. It was fun. It was...
No, it was kind of like one of the most memorable of all the shows because of that reason. So, it's cool.
100%. No, I do need to try and get back and see the end of it at some point.
You didn't miss that much. It was pretty close. Pretty close. Fire Alarm was only it only missed the finale and the bows.
Oh.
But yeah.
It was funny.
Come back and see the end.
I will certainly try. So my first question for you today is, what is the journey of how you got to where you are today? It's a vague one, but...
Mine is quite an odd one, because I didn't have any interest in being an actor. As in, I didn't do any drama at school. I didn't do anything as a kid. The first time I got a bit involved, so basically my younger brother is called Cameron Sharp. He's in the biz. He's been in loads of stuff. His CV's amazing. And it was always kind of his thing, and he'd do Amdram and all of that. And I was never involved, and I kind of just go to the parties and all of that, and just, and so I kind of know everyone. It wasn't until I was kind of early to mid 20s that I thought I'd give it a go. And people were my mum and my family and my brother and that were well blown away. It just did not seem like something that I would do. It wasn't my vibe at all.
No.
And I was in a band and just no interest in being on stage. And so then I started doing a bit of Amdram and realized that I loved it and that I was pretty good at it. And I got a bit of a natural kind of flair for it, I suppose. More than anything, I just felt like I was doing something that it really excited me. And so I kind of gave it I did a few Amdram shows and that, and I thought, everyone that I know is kind of going off and training, and I was older than them, and I was 25, 26, and I was I'll just give it a go and auditioned and ended up doing training, and then never had any inclination to do musicals because I just didn't have the skill set. I couldn't sing them, had no kind of singing voice at all, can't dance or anything, and then loved the musicals, but just was that's a whole different thing. I thought I was going to be kind of on TV or, maybe if I was going to do anything to be plays. And then here we are, suddenly fast forward a few years, and suddenly I'm singing this absolute belter of a part every night. It's nuts. It's kind of one of those weird ones where you just it's just, we've just been in Birmingham, which is kind of near where I'm from. So lots of people from home have come to watch it, and people who knew me 10 years ago, and they are just it's just not at all what people thought I would be doing.
No.
So it's cool. It's nice for that reason, because it kind of all feels so exciting and new. And even though I'm not I feel like a grad, even though I'm only, most grads are 21 and I'm early 30s. So I say early 30s, mid 30s.
No, but it's a difficult one to sing as well. It's not easy,
mate. It's that people don't give it the credit for what it is. I challenge anyone to. People always come and they get, they'll be like, oh, it sounds like quite a hard sing, and you're like, have a go at singing that whole show and doing all of that dialogue without, mate. It's exposed some people who are thinking that they were, very very secure with it. It's a lot. It's a lot. I
was going to say, if
it was a different kind of show, it would get a lot more credit than it kind of does. But that's just the nature of it.
I think it's fantastic. So obviously you didn't know that you were going to perform until well into, when most people start really young. But it proves you don't have to. If you all of a sudden want to do it, you can just turn around and go, that's what I want to do. Which is
I think
great to see that.
I think it also has a plus. Both have got positives and negatives. But my fear, I think, with people that want to do it from such a young age is that they haven't ever thought about anything else, and and this industry is like, it is just constantly getting rejected, and it's constantly, even when you've got the work, it's constantly being, you know, you're being knocked down, and it's never really, you're never secure, and I think that the advantage for someone like me who came to it late is that I did other work. I worked as, like, I was a builder. I trained to be a teacher. I worked for the police for a little while, you know, like just kind of all trying to do just different stuff to find out what I wanted to do. And so I've kind of experienced other jobs, and you kind of, you know, so then when you're doing this, you do feel very lucky to be doing it. And it isn't something that you've kind of put a lot of pressure on. Whereas I think people who do it from such a young age, there's such a pressure. And my fear a little bit with that, so to go back, is that, like, if your dream your entire life from the age of 6 is to be in the West End, then once you get into the West End, what happens? You know, you've fulfilled your dream. And also, what happens if you don't get into the West End? Because it doesn't really matter if you're in the West End or not. It doesn't make any difference. You can be doing anything else. You can do amazing stuff and not ever work in the West End. And it just feels like a big pressure that people put on themselves. So yeah, it's kind of, I always say, just try and live a little bit of another life, you know, even if it's just when you've graduated or whatever, just going and doing some other job, which everyone has to do unless you're the luckiest person in the world. And then it kind of gives you a bit of a balance of what it is to be in a musical, you know.
It's really good. So what's it been like going back to performing after the pandemic then? Like, how's that felt, being back on stage?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I actually think it's been, it's kind of been, not better. It's been very different. It's been very heightened since before. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think it's from personal reasons for as performers, to have something that you love taken away, to have no option to do it. Couldn't even do it as a hobby. Couldn't even do it, you know, get some friends together and put on a show. You know, you couldn't. Having all of that taken away then gives you a whole new appreciation for it. I also think that being in this industry, like I say, it's just so full of, it's constant. You're on like a travelator that you're constantly being rejected, or everything moves, everything can change so quickly. You can be at your lowest point, and then 3 days later you get a phone call and suddenly you're boom, you know, you're on the way, you can be in something amazing. And so that keeps you on your toes. But when that travelator stops, it gives you time to, like, look back and reflect and be like, oh, I'm really proud of what I've achieved. I've never even thought about it. Or I really want to work on this, or I really want to focus on, you know. So it gave everyone a bit of time. So you can feel that people, now that they're back at work as the actors, there's a definite kind of new appreciation for it. We were all very lucky that we're in work at any point, but definitely at the moment we're very lucky.
Definitely.
And then from audience point of view, and that I think that applies to, like, crew and everyone backstage, everyone who puts together a musical, you know, there's a whole new kind of thing for it. And then audience point of view, I think it's just made them, they seem to be just way more engaged. It's like, again, because the novelty was taken away from them, and now it's like it's a new thing. It's a new experience again. And what we found, definitely at the beginning of the tour, but I still think it happens now, is that the beginning of the show can be quite slow to get going. The audience seem to be quite reserved. They're kind of watching it like they're watching TV, and then suddenly you can feel them be like, oh no, we are out of our living rooms and we're with other people, and then it just builds and builds and builds. And audiences on the whole have been raucous, and it's been amazing, and they've absolutely loved it and really connected with, I think, with theatre in general, but with our show, our show is so positive and it champions everyone, and it's kind of, you know, it's all about hope and kind of collaborating, and there's a real feel that at the end that everyone's kind of hopefully a bit inspired, or at least you know, fully entertained. So yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but unbelievable experience.
No, amazing. So how have you prepared for your role within the show? How did you prepare for this role?
Well, I did it in the West End. Luckily for me and for Alex Tompkins, who's the alternate, we were both in the West End. So he plays Dewey at certain performances. We were both in the West End, and we both were covers, and then kind of have worked our way up. And so we've been very fortunate where we've got to kind of watch. That's quite an unusual thing in the industry, you know, to work your way up. And I think that the beauty of it for this role, is that we've got to see what it entails and be able to kind of dip our toes into it and then work towards it, know what our weaknesses are and what our strengths are, and kind of be able to build slowly. Whereas people who've come in cold and have just had to suddenly just be playing the part of, it's a massive impact. You know, it's a real shock to the system. So we were lucky that we knew what was coming when the tour was announced, and you know, when we were cast, and kind of had to work on a lot of different things. You know, I have to work on. For me, I just want to be as fit as possible, like as physically fit. But obviously, you can't look like you're an athlete. You have to look like Jack Black. You know, you have to have or at least you have to look slightly disheveled. And so that's kind of a bit of a balance. And vocally, like we said, it's not even just the singing of it; it's the dialogue. It's just so high energized and so consistent, and he doesn't leave the stage at all. And so actually, you find that sometimes the songs are, even though they're ridiculously high American kind of twangy rock, they're almost a relief, because some of the scenes are so exhausting in themselves, you know. And so it's just a lot of working on fitness and stamina, and trying to kind of make sure that you know where your show is, and that you don't blow out. It's like the thing we always say, you know, whenever a cover goes on for Dewey and wherever they have their first show, or even if they have just a cover run or anything, it's always like, make sure that you save something. Don't use all your energy by the end of you're in the band, because you have got another hour and a half to go. Like, it's a marathon. And, but you have to make it look like it's a sprint. So it's kind of a bit of a you know, a fine line. But yeah, it's been a lot of that, and just trying to think of new jokes. That's it.
Yeah. So is that what you find the most challenging about the role then, like the stamina, keeping that through the whole show? Yeah,
I find I'm quite fortunate that I find that, I think what some people struggle with is the length of the show, as in, like, it is like a roller coaster. As soon as it starts, you don't have time to reset. You know, most parts you get to sing, you know, you do a song or you do a scene, and then you go back to your dressing room, and if it's gone well, you kind of reflect on it. If it's gone badly, you have to try and shake that off. And but you get time to go and have a sip of water, or talk to your friend in the dressing room or whatever. But there's none of that at all. You know, and it's literally just, you run into the wings, someone towels your face off, you smash some water in, they spray your mic to get the sweat out, and then you're back on stage. You know, it's so I think that I'm quite lucky that is, I really, really enjoy that. That's like what I thrive on. That is my favorite bit of it, really, is the intensity of it. However, the knock on of that the next day is how exhausted you are. So it's then trying to be able to replicate that night after night after night. And so, yeah, the thing that I find the hardest is definitely having a really, really amazing show, and you feel great, and you feel great after it. And then the next day, you obviously have a massive knock-on. It's a massive impact, and then you feel wrecked, and then have to spend basically the entire of the next day just trying to get yourself ready to be able to do the evening one. And then and then the day after that is obviously worse than it was that day. So it's kind of just, it's that's the bit that's hard work. I look forward to one day being in a job when I can just go and have a normal life and then rock up in the evening and do the show, rather than it being from 10 a.m. just thinking whether your voice is going to be able to wake up, or, you know, or whether you're going to be able to move out of bed because your back's so sore or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't change it though.
No, it's amazing. Now the next thing is something I got Becky Locke to do when I chatted to Becky Locke, is summarize the show as quickly as you can.
Right. Oh, okay. So the show is about a guy who has all of the ambition and the dream and the love for something. He's so passionate about something, and he isn't able to fulfill that. And he, through tricks, it's very hard to do, he kind of finds himself in a place where he can teach that to a younger generation, and they can teach him how to grow up.
Yes.
That's terrible. That's terrible. It's impossible.
Right.
No, right. That was bad. That was bad. I wish the show was that quick. That'd be nice.
Well, you know, nice 75-minute show. So the next thing I've got for you is some fans' questions.
Okay, hit me.
Excitement. So the first one is from Trevor, and Trevor's asked, if you forget a line on stage, what do you do?
Have a panic attack. No, it happens quite a lot. It happens it's kind of touch wood. It's rarer that we forget the lines. Sometimes the kids forget their lines. You know, which obviously is going to happen. It has happened that I've dried. It depends. I find that it's the most scary thing in the whole world. Yeah. However, if you're like halfway through the show, it kind of doesn't feel bad. You just kind of just go and just brush it off. I always try and think of, me and Alex have talked about this again, the alternate. We have different methods. He kind of just blurts out something that he thinks is close, whereas I kind of try and think of what's happening in the scene and trying to and put it in my own words. But I think his is better. Yeah, because it keeps the scene moving. Whereas mine sometimes can then go off onto a bit of a tangent. But you've just got to really, really hope that it's the person that is in the scene with you can remember what the next line is, and they can just bring you back. But it's terrifying. And the thing is that it feels like the worst thing ever. And then afterwards, you say to someone in the audience or to whoever, you're like, oh, and they're like, oh, I didn't notice. And you're like, what? It was literally felt like it was about 15 minutes of me stood on stage. It
feels so long, doesn't it? You're like, oh,
it's just terrible. It's mortifying. It's absolutely mortifying. But it's happened to everyone.
It's weird. The next question is from Eva, and Eva's asked, what's been your favourite venue on tour so far?
Manchester was nuts. The crowds were nuts. It was just after the New Year. There was particularly a couple of the shows which were just like ridiculously, like everyone in there was so vocal. But I loved being in Belfast because I've never been, well, not for years. The city's amazing, really cool place to be. Really enjoyed it. And Edinburgh. But then, I don't know. The local ones for me, like Wolverhampton and Birmingham, have obviously got a special part because I did like Amdram there, so going back. But I would say probably, I think it probably was Manchester. It just was I was just coming back from horrible COVID, and so it was a real kind of mega boost of an amazing crowds. So
yeah, needed that to get back to it as well.
Yeah, probably, but I feel bad about everyone else because everyone's been amazing.
Jess has asked, who is your biggest inspiration?
My biggest, I mean, it has to be my brother, because he's the one that I've literally I watched him the whole time. Yeah. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for him, even though he's younger than me. Like, I watched him on stage. Everything I ever learned about how to be on stage was from watching him. You know, him getting jobs, massive jobs, and all of this, like, before I'd even thought about it, you know, was he kind of has paved the way, and also I've seen the rejection and I've seen all of that stuff firsthand from someone that I care about so much. So actually it means that now then when I get it, it's not as painful because I know that someone that I love so much has experienced. Yeah, that it happens. And also I've seen how, you know, when you've got someone that you're that close to, that if you see how they react to it and then you go, well, okay, well, then maybe I need to react to it in a similar way, or maybe I wouldn't react in that way, you know. So I've kind of been able to live a lot of it through him and with him. And he's been my biggest, and I think he's the most talented person ever, and he's unbelievable. And so we have a kind of a real mutual respect, and there's never a competition there, and it's just nice. So I think he would definitely be the one. He came to watch the show the other night.
Oh, lovely.
The most excited I've been was knowing that he was watching, you know, that he's watching, you know, so that's kind of so Cameron Sharp.
Yes. The next question is from Olivia, and Olivia's asked, what would be a dream show for you?
Beetlejuice. I want to be Beetlejuice. I would love to be Beetlejuice.
Yes.
I would absolutely love to be Beetlejuice.
Yes.
I'm putting it into the atmosphere,
Let's make it happen. Because
let's make it happen.
I'll be there. And the final fans question is from Brooke, and Brooke has asked, what advice would you give to young aspiring performers?
I would say I have two things that I think came straight to my head. The first one sounds really pathetic, but be nice. Be a nice person. It means the world to everyone if you are working with a cast and crew and creatives who are nice. If someone isn't nice, I just have an unbelievably less respect for them. I don't want them to do well. I don't want to work with them again. I want them to, you know, for me, it's so important. If the amount of people that you hear of once you're in the biz a little bit. I mean, I'm very much still on the outside. I've only really done this, but you hear of like people that get employed time and time again because they're just really cool to work with. They're really fun. They're really nice. There's no bother. There's no ego. And so that's my first one. Is just be a nice, kind person, because actually, annoyingly, the industry sometimes lacks that.
Yes.
And the second one would be to try, as a young, even anyone in the industry, but especially as a young aspiring performer, just try everything. And what I mean by that is, like, go and have, if you know someone who plays the piano, just go and have a few lessons, see whether you love it. Go and do. So for me, I really, really wish that I could play the piano. I really wish that I could have either I could dance. And I wish that I'd been and done those dance lessons when I was younger, because it's way easier to learn when you're younger, but also it gives you more time to kind of master them. And you just don't know what your thing's going to be. The amount of people that you hear that have got into a bit of kind of like almost, it looks like through luck, have got into a room or got a job because it happened that they could play the flute. And then they needed a flautist, and then next thing you know, they're amazingly successful, and they're not playing the flute anymore. But it's just that thing that gets you in. It's that USP, a unique selling point. But also, it's just something that it might be something like the piano, or like dance, or anything, painting even. It could just be this other thing that gives you your creative fulfillment that isn't related to your job. Because where the pressure comes is when, if you are for example, a fantastic singer, and you want to be in musicals and you want to be singing, and then you're not getting any work, suddenly that thing that you love so much is the thing that you're relying on to bring you joy and income, and it actually can be quite hard work. So just try all these different things, just try them all, and just see. You might love them all, and you'll never regret having tried them. There'll be never a point where you'll be like, oh, what a waste of time those jazz lessons were, just it doesn't happen. And just the more skilled you are in all these different areas, you just never know. You never know.
Yeah, well, good advice. Now, the final thing you've got today is the School of Rock quiz, which I have formed.
I'm having a sip of tea before it happens.
Yeah, you'll probably need it, to be fair. To be honest, I've been fairly nice, I think, anyway. So the first question is probably the not nice one, and that is, how many tracks are in the original Broadway cast recording?
I mean, I'm guessing, but I know there was a couple of extras.
It's a solid
weird
number.
Versions. It's 16.
20.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
To be fair, you weren't far off though. 16.
I don't know. Pretty bad. But they got that Patty song in there that's so good that it's not in the show anymore.
We need that back. Right. The next one. Who was the original Broadway Dewey?
Alex Brightman.
Yes.
Which
is another reason you'd make a great Beetlejuice. It's just written in the stars.
I'm just trying to copy his career.
Yeah, Wicked.
I mean, I'm not going Wicked. yeah. He's amazing. He's unbelievable.
So the next one is, what year did the show open on Broadway?
2000 and what was it? Oh no, 2013?
15.
Oh damn it!
2 years out.
2015.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it was like that was.
That's not that long ago.
7 years old now.
How about I just did the maths and I knew it was 7 years old and I thought it was 2020 still? That shows how
I'm still stuck there too. Don't worry about it.
I'm still there.
The next one is more of a general. It's, what year did the School of Rock film come out?
It's like 2003.
Well, I'll give you that because I'm pretty sure the American release was 2003. The UK release was 2004, but I'll give you the 2003. You can have that.
I think that's what they use on some of the blurbs. So I'm gonna take that one.
We'll take that. And the last one, if you don't get this one, where have you been? Which theatre did the show play on the West End?
Well, the Gillian Lynn / the New London Theatre, as it was when it first started.
I was going to say, if you didn't get that one, then...
Yeah, I mean, that is my entire CV, so I should definitely get that one. That's all that's written on there. Both theatres, both names as well, just to really pad it out.
Yeah, you've got to get them on there.
Yeah, for sure.
Just in case, you never know. But aside from that, that is it. So I want to thank you for joining me today. And I also want to thank anyone who's watched this episode for watching it, and remind people to subscribe. That is free. So, it's pretty nice to do that too.
Do it.
Just follow me on the socials because they're linked below. Go follow Jake because give him the love. Go see him on tour. It's still going. Still going.
It's going for another 8 months or something. So 7 months. So
get yourself there. Time. Get yourself to the tour. And yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll see you on the next episode.